Morena, everyone. Welcome to the Ōtorohanga District Council extraordinary meeting for 12th of August 2025. Can I get you all to join with me in the opening? Thank you. Mā te whakapono, mā te tūmanako, mā te titiro, mā te whakarongo, mā te makitahi, mā te manawanui, mā te aroha, ka taea e tātou. Thank you. Do we have any apologies other than from His Worship the Mayor? Rory, do you have one from him? Either of the rooms? Hey, so I'll move that we receive and accept the apology from His Worship the Mayor and Roy Johnson. Do I have a seconder for that? Jamie, sorry, thank you. No late items. Do any of the members need to declare a conflict of interest? Okay, so we'll move to the agenda item 268, Water Services Delivery Plan Adoption. A significant and well-written report. Congratulations to everybody, and I'll open it to you, Mark.
Good morning. Just as a bit of an introduction, I'll take the report as read, but I have got some notes here. I'd also have Anne online up on the screen there, and I've asked Brendan to sit alongside me today because this is quite a heavily financial plan, and rather than have him over there, I thought I'd get him beside me. So I'll just start off. So today we're adopting the Water Service Delivery Plan. We've heard a lot about this plan, so it's good to see it come to completion. So it's the final part of all the work we've been doing in the last 18 months. Once again, my name might be on this report, but I haven't done all this work. There is a big team sitting behind this that have put this together. So I would just like to acknowledge them again today for all their hard work in pulling all this together for today's adoption. So after today, we will move into what we call the transition phase as we work towards the transferring of water and wastewater assets to the new service delivery provider, Waikato Waters, on the 1st of July 2027. Part of that, obviously, that process is the adoption of the Water Services Delivery Plan, which has to be submitted to the DIA. So the report's quite detailed, but I suppose just to put some context around this, the Water Service Delivery Plan is a one-off requirement, and it's the mechanism for which councils will demonstrate to the DIA that we will meet financial sustainability by the 30th of June 2028 in whichever water delivery model that councils decide to choose. And we've obviously chosen that the multi-council CCO is the best way forward for Ōtorohanga. So inside that plan, we have to ensure that we can meet regulatory standards for our water services, show that we are financially sustainable, ensure that we can also meet the required drinking water standards or quality assurance rules, and that it supports any housing growth or urban development into the future. It's quite a long plan. You'll see it's made up of 5 parts, parts A through to E, but you'll have also noticed that there's 2 parts D. So part D, the second part D, I'll call it, is relating to stormwater. So that's why it's in there. And each of those parts are individually named, and I'm not going to go through that, but you'll see in clause 5.2 of the report, it references each of the titles. So a lot of the narrative within the plan has also been provided by Waikato Water and Waikato Waters, and that's particularly in parts A and D So that is consistent across all of the 7 councils, as part of the CCO. So that was provided to us. We have put that into our plan. And apart from a couple of little nuances, it's consistent across all those councils. We spent probably the most of our time in the remaining parts B, C, and E, and part D too. I confused in a minute. So you'll see it's heavily financially drafted as well, and you'll notice in there that our numbers basically sit in the first 3 years. Obviously, one of those years is last year, and then the numbers sitting out to the remaining 10 years is Waikato Water's numbers that were provided to us based on our information that we provided and their modelling. I'm sure Brendan can answer any of those questions within his scope on some of those financials if we want to get into that level of detail. So as I've already said, the plan gets submitted to the DIA by the 3rd of September. It is our intention to submit it this week, along with the remaining Waikato Waters plans. I understand some of them went last week and some will go this week. So adopting this plan ensures that Council's position is clearly documented and supports the smooth transition into the new service delivery model. It also provides transparency to our community and will be displayed on our Council website, along with all the other various local water done well documents. I think it's important to note this plan does not get changed. It's a one-off plan. It sits as I suppose, a representation of where we are currently sitting in our water services. And in the coming years, it's probably going to become more of a historical reference rather than an ongoing plan that gets adjusted. But what will take its place is the water services strategy, which will be developed by Waikato Waters and has to be developed by July 2027. And that will become the ongoing strategic document for Waikato Waters. So I just sort of wanted to make that clear around how this sort of sits in the future. So strategic documents for Waikato Waters. And if you look at the water services strategy, it probably is very similar to what the LTP is, but water focused only, water and wastewater. One of the other key things to mention there is that we too will have to prepare a water services strategy for stormwater, which we will shortly do, I'm sure, as I start to focus my attention on the next 2 years now that we've reached this sort of milestone and get into our delivery model. So once again, I mean, the report's really detailed, the plan is really detailed, so quite happy to take it at that point and answer any questions. And if I can't answer them, I'm sure Brendan or Anne or anyone else in the team can help me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So are there questions from the floor? I believe you have some, Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Your Worshipfulness. Yeah, look, a couple of these I'll probably just flick through to Brendan to respond to, because I think they're more financially, so I won't worry about those. But I just wanted to clarify. Just to clarify, will the new entity be required to adhere to our 10-year financial projections, or Mark, were you saying that after the first 3 years, they've actually set them for themselves? Like, do we not have an input into from years 4 through to 10? Have I got that right? Or
so the water services strategy will be, one of the guiding documents of that will be the statement of expectation. Now, it is my understanding, and Brendan may be able to help me here too, is that for the first few years that there'll be ring fencing around investment. So that will be based on our long-term plan. So in the meantime, we'll run with our long-term plan as it currently sits. But ultimately, for the CCO to reach its potential, it needs to start setting its own strategy around how it will deliver, how it will meet its revenue and its investment. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for us to continue for the next 10 years on our LTP and have a CCO up the road that would have to continue to adhere to that. But there'll be a period of settling, I imagine, as we move through those early years,
Right.
while they move across from our LTPs into their strategy. So that's the date that's been set as 2027. I would say that will be when we'll start to see them sort of reach that potential.
Cool, thanks. No, that answers it. Thank you very much. Now on page, I think it's page 23 of the report. There's a table there which shows the breakdown of councils, shareholders, and it's like a flow chart thingy. On the right-hand side, it talks about financial security to be provided by the councils. So the question there is, if councils are providing security for Waikato water debt, does that affect our ability to raise debt for our own purposes? I mean, will that, for example, will that contingent liability affect our credit rating and our ability to borrow, simply because the borrowers will look at that and say, you guys have got a contingent liability there, that maybe that'll affect our ability to raise money for ourselves? Is that a fair question or not?
Through you, your worshipfulness, deputy worshipfulness. I wonder if Max is watching this. So my understanding is that the creation of the CCOs, the LGFA has approved a separate kind of debt cap for the CCOs to be able to operate within that kind of envelope, and that the council debt therefore is kind of separate to that, so that we can continue with the other activities that we might need to raise debt for without that hindrance, that impact on our debt. So yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, yes, we are guarantors for that debt of the CCO.
Yeah, that thanks. No, I just wondered whether that guarantee was in any way going to affect our ability to raise money. But okay.
And there are, I think it's outlined in, is it the shareholders agreement, the steps that, the kind of protections there, should it look like the CCO is looking a bit wobbly on it, and all the kind of parts of intervention, if you like, that would happen to ensure that it didn't go from operating on a sound footing to suddenly turning belly up without a whole bunch of indicators and interventions happening by a number of different agencies and the shareholders and all the rest of it.
Yep. No, good. Thanks, Tanya. On page 25, under the heading billing arrangements, it's just the second paragraph that says the charges will be then passed to Waikato Waters in accordance with the service agreement. So on, I think this question's been asked before, but just to clarify again, does that agreement include recovery of administrative costs for an agency, some sort of arrangement that we may have with the...
So we are talking through that. Okay. If we're going to continue to provide services to the CCO in terms of billing and that, then there needs to be some commercial recognition of that. So it hasn't been set in stone yet, but yes, the CEs have talked about that. Cool. Because we're looking at our residual organisation structure. And we're saying, well, actually, if water was all gone on the first day, we maybe wouldn't need some of these positions. But in actual fact, we're going to be keeping some of the those functions in a transitional nature. Right. So we absolutely need to be acknowledging that in some financial way.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And on page, page 30, under the heading consultation and engagement, there's a sentence here that says, as a consequence, the ability for ODC to fully exercise its caveat with respect to becoming the stage 2 shareholder diminishes, and although possible, it is likely to come with substantive costs. Can you just expand on what that means? When you talk about substantive costs, are we able to recover any of those costs, or and what are they? What are those costs?
So I think through you, what we were saying is, if we stayed in the water entity, and then at a certain point of time made the assessment that we were no worse, or that we were worse off, and decided to pull out, the other councils could have basically say, look, we've made this model on all of us being in there.
Yep.
Ōtorohanga, whether you pull out or not, you still need to pay up until the stage 2 kind of point,
right,
because we factored you into the establishment cost. Now, Anne and Brendan, please, and Mark, please chip in if that's, I'm trying to put it in, kind of quite simple terms. So, yeah, but that was my understanding of that.
Yep, you've described it really well. It's, what costs would, I suppose, by us pulling out of the CCO, and then there's provision in the shareholders agreement for us to do that. It would be their calculation. It would be worked out by Waikato Waters what that cost would be. But the indication is it would be quite substantial. We don't know what that figure is exactly, Councillor, and probably don't want to test it. But
yeah, no,
but you could imagine if we were to pull out of the CCO at that moment, it wouldn't be that plausible, I thought.
Right. And just a quick follow on from that, then I gather the statement of expectations that we're putting up, which had asked for the first 3 years no worse off, is in the balance too. Yeah.
So I think they're on the cusp of appointing the board, the chair and 2 members, and it'll be over to them to bring a draft statement of expectations to the shareholders and see whether that is palatable. And at that point, then I guess that's the conversation.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Okay. No, I picked up on that one. And I think probably the rest of them are just minor financial questions, which I can direct to Brendan. If you're happy with that, I can do that by email. Yep. So that's me.
None of those ones that the rest of us might be interested in, or?
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to comment on page 41. There's a couple of graphs there to do with water loss in Ōtorohanga and Kāwhia. And I just wanted to say what a great result that is for Kāwhia, to see the water loss being reduced from 30% down to about 10. That's tremendous. So I just wanted to compliment staff on that. And page 61, there's a table there of investment required in water services. I was just curious as to, if you have a look at the third row, which says capital expenditure, improved levels of service, it goes 90, 56, 42, then all of a sudden it goes up to 329,000. And similarly, capital expenditure replace existing assets goes from 868 up to 3.2 million, 2.6 million, and then another 3 million. So I just wondered, without going into too much detail, just what work is planned to produce those figures.
So the replacing existing assets, I can easily answer. The improved level of service, I need to go back and look at what we actually put in the LTP, because I can't remember off the top of my head for that one. In terms of the replacing existing assets, what we've done there is we've put in the money. So this wasn't in the LTP, this is additional when we were doing the work for the plans. and the modelling. We've put in the work that would be required on the Ōtorohanga treatment plants to get up to compliance. So that we worked out was about 6 million over the 3 plants. Right. So we've spread it over 3 years. So that's why it's in there. We've included that because as at the time we've done all the modelling and the this plan, we haven't had the poll yet to go out to see whether we change that to stock only. If it goes to stock only, then obviously it doesn't become it's not a drinking scheme anymore, so it doesn't fall under this. We don't need to spend that money. But to be consistent with where we're currently at, I guess the current standing, we would have to spend that money to comply. So therefore we put that into the plan. But obviously, yeah, that depends on what happens later this year.
Thanks, Brendan.
As for the other 300,000, I would have to look at that. I can't look at that. Okay, no, that's the question. Appreciate it. Unless members of the Catherine Camping. Well, sorry.
Microphone, Mark, please.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that unless there's other questions.
Okay, on page 119, there's a significant capital projects table, and I just the second line down, water meter renewals, 222,000. I gather that that's for both Ōtorohanga and Kāwhia. Would that be right, or is it just Ōtorohanga?
That's probably just Ōtorohanga, because the Kāwhia ones only went in 2 years ago, whereas the Ōtorohanga ones at that point would have been in close to 10 years. So meters usually have a useful life of about 10 years before they need to be replaced. So we've budgeted. So I think that's actually part of that 329 would be that money to replace all the meters. And there's potential, I guess, there at that point to move to smart meters. We could probably factor that into the cost, which is why it's improving the level of service as opposed to just renewal.
Right, and so those figures are actually in our LTP.
It's already in the LTP. Yep, that's good. Yep.
No, that's all I had. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, if I can just say, we had a discussion as CEs about replacing water meters kind of before the entity got going. I think, Mark, you and I had a conversation about it, bulk buying, and the savings you could make. And when you've got half a dozen of councils all doing staged water meter replacement, significant savings, obviously, in that area. So, yeah, I guess the new entity will look at, get information on the lives of things like that and factor that in. But, the bulk buying, purchasing power of that sort of thing is evident when you put that number together.
Would that be done just through the councils involved in the water entity, or would that be also, would CoLab come into that?
Well, and maybe even further, because Hamilton City are looking at putting them in. And when you get, an organisation that big, or a city that big, so it might that particular project might not just be limited to to the Waikato Water Councils. It might be a bigger grouping. I mean, we're looking at ways we can work together with that, not only, immediately with the other Waikato CCO, but we've also got approaches. I've got an email from one of the Bay of Plenty councils who wants to have a discussion with me. They're the smallest in the Bay of Plenty, about how we've ensured that we have the same number, the same rights to voting and the same, as the bigger councils in our shareholding. So there's a lot of eyes on us at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Tanya. Are there any other questions from media?
Yeah.
Given that, you can take our plans about 250 pages or whatever. So by the time the DIA read over 19,000 pages of the plans, what happens? Well, in our own backyard, what if they're not happy with the other 6 councils or even ours? Is there something in there they can revoke the whole? So we don't want Waikato Waters done well. Is there a last chance to get it back local? But if you know what I mean, because I've already read some media things that DIA sent it back to the councils and said, "Oh, we're not happy with your plan." So could that same thing happen? Like they might get Waipara and go, or they might say that's completely unaffordable, Waikato Waters. Have they got that power, or is that?
they've got the ability to question what's in the document for sure, council. I would imagine, and some of the sort of stuff that's going on in the media at the moment is I think that their focus is going to be probably more on standalone councils than multi-council CCOs. So obviously this is the opportunity for a council to put forward how they believe they're going to reach financially sustainable water services or wastewater services delivery by 2028. So this is a combined plan, although individual councils to a combined CCO. The smaller councils or the standalone councils are probably going to be more put under the microscope by the DIA as they try and show how their revenue is going to meet their investment over the next 10 years. And some of them will be successful in that. There's no, some will be, some may not be, but how the DIA is going to analyse all these, I'm not sure, but I imagine they've thought about it. There'll be a team of people looking through these. They've been put in parts for a reason, I think, that they'll parts will probably get split up and go up to certain people. But yeah, that's only my thoughts. I don't know exactly how it'll be done. But it goes in a draft, councillor, so it does go as a draft. So it could come back with a series of questions or changes. But yeah, I don't perceive to see anything in there that might cause any alarms at this stage. But who knows until it gets down there.
Sorry,
And the
Mark,
last, oh, sorry. Yeah.
my apologies. I can't find a hand.
I was going to invite you in eventually, Anne. But speak now.
I don't know where it is in Zoom. But I guess one of the other things to note is that Waikato Water's Done Well has actually, they've run drafts past the DIA. So they've already had a bit of an indication of what the feel is for the plans as well. So that also helps in terms of the review of those plans, so that they're to some degree a known quantity.
My thoughts on that were that, and DIA had been hovering around us and selling us as the prime exemplar. So I think there's a degree of familiarity with what we're presenting already. Did you have another question?
No, not really a question. I just thought page 26 on the stormwater. I just wanted to read out because this is my thinking. With good local knowledge and strong relationships between council teams, it was thought that the current arrangements with respect to stormwater would provide for a more integrated approach for the delivery of this activity. Going on that, I think we should have been staying with the other two. I don't know why we're only trusted to look after stormwater locally and we're giving away wastewater and thing. But anyway, that's my final thing for this part. Thank you.
Councillor Timothy.
We're comfortable with the level of te mana o te wai o te share te whaimana in terms of the obligation to iwi and within this report. Like you can kind of read it in there. We're okay with the level we have in there. We'll be all right. Just that I had a conversation with Tremaine and she just said if there's any awhi we can, that we would be that supportive.
Yeah, so that's I've actually got a note to go back to Tremaine on that very thing. Because the question was raised, have we got enough detail in the water service delivery plan? And the answer is where it's probably more relevant is in the shareholders agreement, and that's where the binding part of it comes. So I've got an email to send to Tremaine to hopefully answer that question. I just haven't had a chance to get it away to, but I'm confident it's detailed in the correct place. It's probably not as detailed in the water services plan, but given the shareholders agreement is the binding document from all councils, it makes a lot of sense for it to sit in there.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just going back to that guarantor of the debt to the entity by the council, is there a time frame of how long we have to be guarantor on that debt for?
Don't recall there being
an end date in the shareholders agreement? I haven't read it for a while, so maybe there wasn't, I missed it. I would say probably not. Yeah, off the top of my head, without going back and checking the agreement.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that I thought that if we're guaranteeing debt for the life of the entity, then would it not be prudent, even though we've got a debt ceiling, I assume within this council, 70, something,
175% of revenue.
yeah, okay, so would it be prudent for us to do a self-imposed debt ceiling so that we've got that covered rather than, I'm not saying that we're ever going to reach that, but, if future council goes on a huge spending spree and we get right up to our debt ceiling and then the entity falls over and we can't cover it, would it be prudent for us as a council to impose a debt ceiling rather than relying on trying to find money when we can't get it? Basically, is there just putting that out?
Yeah,
there.
potentially that could be a prudent path to go down. Yeah, I guess, and again, I haven't read the agreement for a while, so I can't remember. I guess it also depends on the nature of if the guarantee was called, if we got to that point, what does that look like? Do we have to front up money straight away, or is there some sort of have the ability to find the sources somewhere else? Can we temporarily, and again, it depends. Hopefully it's far, if it ever happens, it's far, far in the future. How the LGFA is structured at that point, we might have a different cap. There could be a whole heap of different things that could change. So yes, it's a prudent discussion to have, but I guess at this point it's
yeah, I mean, it's highly unlikely, but
Yeah.
still it's a possibility because nothing's out of the realms of possibility. So I would assume just to cover our backsides in the future, 20 years down the track, perhaps we may need to look at something like that, just potentially.
Were you going to say something, Greg?
Oh, I was just going to say, we're actually a guarantor at the moment with the LGFA. In fact, every council in New Zealand is, and so we're all mutually liable. Any council defaults on their debt anywhere in the country currently, and that's in perpetuity. Yeah.
Thanks, Graham. Are there any other? Councillor Christensen.
Councillor Jeffries actually asked a couple of my questions, so I've just got a couple of little ones. With regards to our service requests, not getting the information in the system right, so that's why we're not meeting our targets. I'm just wondering what we're doing to get that information correctly entered at the first point, because once we transfer and we're still taking the calls, it'd be good if we're getting the right information in there so that our ratepayers aren't going, oh, well, we've just transferred everything over and we're still not getting it right. That was my first question. And then my second one was just about, what's the smart meter project?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So the service request one is page 66. And the smart meter is in the capital projects on 119.
So service requests, I mean, it's an ongoing challenge for us, service requests. And I know that Kumar, our water manager, has been trying to put some other measures in place to get that information more accurate for them. I'm probably not going to be able to answer the bigger picture for service request issues that we have, but I'm confident we're heading in the right direction especially in that water space. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, there's just no answer sometimes. I'm sorry about that, Councillor. Just
no, I know we've talked about
measures we have in place.
We've talked about it before as like pulling a report from our service request system. We can't.
Yep, I'm sorry. Yeah, we just can't at the moment.
Okay.
So we've tried, made several attempts. I think I have a meeting this week with the team to understand it. I was supposed to deliver that to you in April this year and haven't been able to because we simply can't pull a request from our system.
Yeah,
So,
it's not just,
yeah.
it's
There's
not just water that.
Yeah, there's
Fully
a
approved.
work stream called customer. And so the water entity has someone in charge of a work stream called customer that will figure out how the interface between the entity and each individual council based on their systems is going to actually do that as seamlessly as possible. All right. So yeah, I think that's we've got to make sure that we're plugged in to that and that they understand our strengths and our shortcomings in our system.
So I'm just trying to get that in my head. So what you're saying is our service request system, you can't sort by water and
Yep.
rubbish
You can
and
pull.
pull a report. What's outstanding?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
The report we can't pull is the closing out report. That's correct, Nadia? Yeah. I'm just looking.
I'm sorry, closing out means
Closing out with the customer.
okay. But you can pull what's open still. Yeah. Okay. And then the smart meter project?
So the smart meters, that's, that project didn't actually go ahead. It was, last year. So on the back of the water meter project we did in the Waipa Rural Water Water Scheme, we put a whole bunch of smart meters out in the network for water leaks and, I suppose early detection. And we considered doing the same thing in Tihara, but we didn't go ahead with that. So that's an old budget that wasn't spent. So that's what it's relates to.
Any other questions from the floor? Anne, do you have any comment to make?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, other than to really compliment the team that Marcus had working with him. I know how hard they've been working in behind the scenes, and to pull all this information together, they've done a fabulous job. So congratulations.
Thank you, and I totally agree. So there being no further comment, we'll move to the staff recommendation. The Ōtorohanga District Council notes that the Chief Executive is satisfied that, to the best of her knowledge, the information contained in the Ōtorohanga Water Service Delivery Plan, the plan, complies with the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act 2024 and is true and accurate. B, adopts the plan attached as Appendix 1 to this report and instructs the Chief Executive to certify and submit the plan to the Secretary for Local Government. C, authorises the Chief Executive to make minor changes to the plan if required prior to its submission. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Jeffries, thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Prendergast. All in favour? Any against? Thank you. Don't think that this is the end of it. And if everyone can keep supporting the staff with the continuing work that is going to be required. Thank you very much. That's our only, So that being the end of our business, can we move back to the front page for your closing prayers? Mā te whakapono, mā te tūmanako, mā te tiro, mā te whakarongo, mā te mahitahi, mā te manawa nui, mā te aroha, ka taia e tātou. Thank you, everyone. And with that, I'll declare the meeting closed.